all right, so let's move on to Trump versus Twitter. Again.
Back at it again, baby.
All right, so what happened this time? Nash, what happens? Please, what happens?
Yo, can you get me a beer while I read it? 'Cause I'm going to finish this one at some point.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. So President Donald Trump signed an executive order aimed at social media companies on Thursday after Twitter issued its first ever fact-check warning on one of his posts. The order is expected to target a 1996 statute that, among other things, allows big tech companies to remove content they find objectionable.
I almost tapped it, but there's a fucking computer right there.
All without any legal ramifications. That statute has been widely controversial on both sides of the aisle. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has also responded to Trump's criticism against the platform, saying Twitter will continue to issue fact-check warnings on misleading posts related to elections around the world. The incident began on Tuesday when Trump posted 2 tweets regarding mail-in ballots shortly after Twitter issued a fact-check warning on both tweets. In those tweets, the president continued to press the media that mail-in ballots would lead to massive voter fraud, even though the majority of experts disagree.
All right, stop right there. So, this all started because Donald Trump sent out some tweets against voting in by mail fraud. And this was when Twitter was just like, all right, now we got him. Now he's lying. Now we can fact check him. I mean, okay, well, before we even get into this, what do you think about mail-in voting?
I don't know. I guess I don't. I feel like we should because of this.
Yeah. Like, come November.
Because I remember when we had an argument about voter fraud, I was like, the only reason you would be against mail-in ballot is because you're afraid of voter fraud. And you told me, yeah, but right now there are only like 400 cases of voter fraud.
Yeah.
Like last year.
Yeah. Voter fraud is incredibly rare. There is literally zero, like the article said, there's zero evidence saying it leans one way or the other. Because Trump is saying that, you know, it's gonna make it impossible for Republicans to win an election. When literally, in like the next sentence, Trump said how a Republican in California won because of mail-in voting. So, like, there's no evidence to say it leans left or right. It can benefit either or. And I think mail-in voting is gonna have to become necessary come November.
What you think when people mail? I'm so confused by that. Like. How does that mail-in specifically tie into, like, your political party?
That's what I mean.
Like, I don't get that. That's what really makes sense to me. It's like, oh, we're mailing? Oh, I'm feeling extra conservative today. Like, what? Stamps really bring out the liberal in me.
Like the idea is that, you know, on actual election day, right? Like, you don't get the day off from work. You gotta find time to go vote, wait in line, do all that bullshit. It's actually very hard to vote in some places. The idea is that mail-in voting, and also young people just don't do it, right? The idea is, okay, if the if the ballot comes in the mail, it comes right to you. Young people are probably gonna do it, and Democrats are probably gonna win. My thing is, how many young people know how to even use the mail?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right? They don't know shit about.
Do you know how to mail a letter? Okay, so if I'm gonna tell you, Nash, go mail a letter. What's the first thing you're gonna do?
Google where to buy stamps.
Right? Exactly. You're gonna Google how do I mail a letter?
I'm gonna need to find where the post. I know how I've mailed letters. All right, I've mailed things in my life. I know how to mail things. Okay,
right?
I don't know how the mail system works, but I know how to do it.
Right? I bet a bunch of young people would even just go, "Fuck this," and just throw it away.
I've never mailed shit.
I.e., the census. How many young people do you think filled out the census? How many think parents filled it out for them? Right? Like, we filled out the census because we're good Americans. High five.
We are good Americans.
Right? But, like...
I put you down as not a citizen.
Thanks. I'm Polish. You can see by the shirt. I'm Poland. So, yeah, that's what happened. And Trump's just like, nah, Twitter. Not today. Not today. I got you. So he's gonna sign this order. Now, you read this whole... Actually, let's read the tweets.
Okay. Twitter.
This is in response to the violation.
This is Donald J. Trump's Twitter at Real Donald Trump on May 26, 2020. At Twitter is now interfering in the 2020 presidential election. They are saying my statement on mail-in ballots, which will lead to massive corruption and fraud, is incorrect. based on fact-checking by fake news CNN and the Amazon Washington Post.
Oh my God! He actually said the Amazon Washington Post.
My God.
Bezos does own it.
Twitter is completely stifling free speech, and I, as president, will not allow it to happen! 250,000 likes. Republicans feel that social media platforms totally silence conservative voices. We will strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen. We saw what they attempted to do and failed in 2016, and we can't let a more sophisticated version of that.
That's all he said. No, I didn't get the next tweet. ...
Yeah,
the world may never know.
XOXO, Gossip Girl.
So Trump also went after California Governor Gavin Newsom's plans to send mail-in ballots to everyone living in the state, quote, no matter who they are or how they got there. Now, that's what Trump said. Now, notably, that's not true. Newsom plans to send ballots to only registered voters because...
That would make sense.
How else?
That would make sense.
How else would you send them out?
Let's use registered votes for 15 years ago.
Right? I mean,
fuck it. Let's just do it.
You know, Trump's going after the thing of illegal immigrants voting, right? But
okay.
In order to get a ballot, you have to be registered.
Yeah, you have to be registered.
And let's not forget, Nash, mail-in voting already exists.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like if you have the capacity to do mail-in voting in your state, all of them have it, right? Or
They have some version of it. Like it's the absentee ballot.
Yeah, because some of them have it for absentee, some of them have
and the military.
Military has it. So that means that you technically should be able to do it for 100% capacity of your population.
Yeah.
Because if the event arises that you would need to, as in a giant pandemic, you'd have the ability, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, why not? Why not do it?
Under normal circumstances, you know, I even still think mail-in voting should be an option.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
I literally don't see the disadvantage to it. Why can't you? It's 2020. Vote on the fucking internet, right? Like, vote by mail.
Nah, the internet's...
You know, don't vote on the internet. But vote...
Anonymous would get them.
Vote by mail should 100% be a thing. But when it comes to November, I'm under no circumstances should any election be postponed or canceled ever for any reason, period.
See, man, I can't live in absolutes like that. Cause like, what if we get nuked?
That's fair.
Right.
All right.
Because, dude, there's always that 1% thing. No matter what, whenever you say something, there's always one exception to it.
Right. But this isn't it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Your
major point's correct.
The coronavirus is not it.
Trump on Twitter is not a
like
news.
I'm even pretty mad that primaries got postponed or canceled. New York's got canceled.
Oh, got canceled.
Yeah, they're not doing it because Biden already pretty much has the majority anyway. But the conventions got pushed. That's fine. That's just lobbyist bullshit anyway.
Yeah.
But actual elections where people actually vote, like people are saying that Biden is like a Democratic puppet, but at the end of the day, he still got the votes.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Like, you can say the system's rigged all you want, but he still got the votes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Will. You're right.
I mean, like, no. People say, well, the system's rigged because Elizabeth Warren's stuck in for Super Tuesday, and if he dropped out and supported Bernie would be the nominee. Sure, you can say that inner workings of politics happen, but surprise, that's how politics works.
Nah, the Clintons wouldn't let that happen.
Which is why Elizabeth Warren stayed in for Super Tuesday.
They own the DNC.
But back to this executive order. So it targets a 1996 statement that shields big tech companies from liability from the user's content. Nash, do you know anything about this clause? Did you look into it? Please tell me you did.
Okay. The one Section 230?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty general. It pretty much says what it defends an online publisher from. They are not responsible as a normal publisher would be when it's online content. Whereas normally, if you're a publisher for like a book or a journal or something, and somebody writes, imagine this.
Like Time Magazine.
Imagine that there was a magazine, but it was just people's tweets. Okay, if you read that, there'd be some crazy shit in there, right?
Yeah.
And they'd be responsible for that. So it's like, yeah, that's how usually you're responsible. But for online, because there's so much of it, it's constantly changing. It's in good faith. That's the whole thing, is that it surrounds on good faith that the company that is doing it, that is allowing people to publish it and speak freely, have a system of regulation that they try to enact. It understands that the system may not be able to work 100% of the time because of the influx.
Right.
But they are trying, to be responsible for what they do. And so they're not held to the same, responsibility as a normal publisher would be. They're not really claiming ownership to what is being said.
Right. So let me put it this way. So if, there's a CNN article and they put a tweet, they embed a tweet in the article, setting a quote or whatever. CNN is responsible for that article under the law. But Twitter isn't.
Twitter, not necessarily.
Right, it's the same form of media. The tweets,
they could be, but nobody would try to argue. Nobody would try to fight that in court because of this section of 230. Mm-hmm. Technically, they could be, but it's Twitter does have a system to regulate, certain behavior from people, and they try to do that.
Right, because the big question here is Twitter a publisher? Right?
I mean, they are. That's not the question. That really isn't the question. They are they allow people to publish, yeah. That isn't the question.
I feel like there's a difference between allowing people to publish and publishing.
The question is their responsibility. What is their responsibility as a publisher?
So I don't think Twitter should be responsible for something I say on their platform.
That's typically how everybody has come to agree to it in the last.
Right? Because they can't control what I do.
Yeah, exactly. But you should have the ability to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So is Trump supporting that or taking that away?
His claim is that he is targeted specifically, and because it's not all the way across the board, that they should be liable to everyone.
All right, first off, he's not targeted specifically. This is the first time in the past 6 years ever that he's been flagged for it.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody's been flagged.
No one has the balls to flag him or take him down.
Well, that's the thing. He got flagged, so he feels like he's being targeted. So if they're not doing,
such a dick,
if they're not doing this protection across the board, and this is the standard of how they protect things, then he's saying you can't pick and choose. You're just going to be liable for it.
Okay, so
that's what I assume his argument is. Essentially, the whole you keep talking.
I'm trying to think. So is he pretty much trying to say, hey, Twitter, social media, your terms and services is complete bullshit. They don't mean anything because of free speech. Go God.
He's saying you are targeting me specifically for my beliefs, not whether they're factually true or not, just because I'm me and you disagree with it. Therefore, you should be liable for what everybody is saying on your platform because you're trying to curtail me.
Oh my God, I'm trying to figure out that riddle in The Hobbit. Mine, I don't understand, just to be honest. I don't understand the story completely.
The thing is, it's not... Well, you get it. It's a very broad and vague and general. Section 230 is. Mm-hmm. It's essentially the whole thing acts in good faith that the tech company is trying to, have some sort of regulation so, shit doesn't... It's not hate speech, essentially. It's not like pure hate speech.
Right.
But we've covered stories before where, you will censor people or
Republican voices.
Or demonetize.
That's the one thing I did want to mention here. The fact that the media definitely has a right-wing bias, in my opinion. That's a very hard thing to prove. They deny it.
You mean they have a left-wing bias?
They have a left-wing bias, but they try and shut out right-wing voices as much as possible for whatever reason. Now, do they do it purposefully? That's even harder to prove.
Yeah, well, that's the big thing is there's no statistical data on that statement. In certain
circumstances, yeah, I do believe. I'm going to mention Steven Crowder again. He's the biggest one. They have literally done tests on their own comparing them to the Young Turks, which is the Young Turks, essentially the left-wing version of Steven Crowder.
Yeah.
And YouTube has given him some version of listen, if you post 20 videos in a day, the notification can be turned off because like their notifications don't work, their search algorithm doesn't work, like they're still demonetized, and they don't really know why, right? So YouTube is just not giving them answers for these questions. Is that on purpose? Maybe. They view it as on that because it's against them personally.
Yeah.
But I mean, I believe it. I personally believe it. But there is no evidence, data, statistics supporting it.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's no data supporting it. And this is where we kind of get into the tricky waters of this, because what Trump has asked is for people to interpret. He's asked for the FCC and the FTC. I think he's asked for those two organizations to re-examine what the meaning of Section 230 has with his specific case, with his declaration in mind. The big issue with this is because you think about it's like, if you agree with Trump that, yes, they did single him out, they did target him because of his political views, it didn't really have much to do with the facts that he presented. It had more to do with who he was. If you agree with that, and you agree with his decision, what happens is your argument is based on the fact that you want there to be a unilateral equality for freedom of speech. You don't want anybody to be under the different jurisdiction of this.
Yeah.
The issue with that is it, in the end, diminishes all freedom of speech overall, because now you have this system that is very liable to be destroyed rather quickly from lawsuits from people suing them for misinformation.
Right.
As if they were like a newspaper.
See, here's the thing. Like I agree with fighting misinformation, like flat Earth bullshit, right? Like the reptilian sources, Scientology in general, right? Like, but there's a line, whereas there's a middle ground where it's what is factual. How do you determine what is factual? Do you want a company like Twitter, Facebook, saying what is and isn't factual?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's where the lines are blurred. Because there's some obvious stuff. Like, if you say the Holocaust didn't happen, yeah, take that shit down.
Yeah.
Right? That's undeniable. Flat Earth, you can take that shit down. Undeniable. Yeah, Hillary Clinton's a lizard. That's up for debate. But take it down. Right?
Yeah.
But stuff like...
Because what was his actual tweet? What was the one that they didn't like? Mail-in ballot.
Mail-in ballots.
Was
I don't have the actual tweet up, but some of them mail-in ballots.
And if it was, it's the thing that, mail-in ballots would kill him in the polls. The thing is, if there isn't any research about that, how are you going to fact check that?
Yeah.
Because you can't. You really can't.
And how many tweets do you think are tweeted out a day?
Oh, billions.
Billions. You're going to fact check
Trillions, maybe.
How are you going to fact check all of them?
Exactly. And so that's why.
All right, put it this way. How many tweets does Donald Trump put out a day?
A shit ton.
Even that is impossible to fact check all of them.
Yeah.
And that's one user.
No, exactly. And that's kind of why this law exists, because as somebody that publishes online content like that, they shouldn't be responsible because it's an open forum. You're not responsible.
Yeah.
Even the individual isn't necessarily responsible. They have the ramifications of society, not from that individual company.
It's like saying Times Square is responsible for what I yell out in public.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is.
Well, like the building, whoever owns this building is responsible for what we say on this podcast.
Exactly. It's not. It's just the place that we do it. And that's sort of the point, because it's public and it's open. Mm-hmm. Although I don't necessarily disagree with his overall point that they stifle certain voices just because of their political opinions. Because, we've done a story on that. Like, that YouTube thing was ridiculous. YouTube took down, just to meet their policy thing, they took down videos of Hitler doing speeches. And it's just like,
kids hate speech.
Yeah, as a historian, that's just like an incredible tool that you have to show people. And doing that is it's very much out of ignorance to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's kind of finding the line. Like, it's some things that are obvious. But there's a even for everything that's obvious, there's 100,000 things that are just in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
That can go one way or the other, and that's why it's so complicated. But Jack Dorsey responds, CEO of Twitter. Me and Jack can go on the horn tomorrow. We're gonna talk about this too. Me, him, and Joe. Really? No, nothing.
No, I used to say that, dude, and you stole it. I'm a little tight about it. We can talk about it privately.
Hey, dude, it's a running bit on the show. And I like it. So Jack Dorsey defended the warning over Trump's tweets, saying those tweets, quote, may mislead people into thinking that they don't need to register to get a ballot. Only registered voters receive ballots. That I'm still like, Jack, that's what you got him for? That's what got you red-handed? Dorsey also added that Twitter will continue to issue fact-check warnings. Fact check, there is... Nash, read, I can't see it. The video is just me going like this.
Fact check, there is someone ultimately accountable for our actions as a company, and that's me. He said, please leave our employees out of this. We'll continue to point out incorrect or disputed information about elections globally, and we will admit to and own any mistakes we make.
Keep going.
This does not make us an arbiter of truth, he added. Our intention is to connect the dots of conflicting statements and show the information in dispute so people can judge for themselves. More transparency from us is critical so folks can clearly see why behind our actions.
That doesn't make sense.
See why behind our actions. Okay, so that's dumb.
Explain.
Because if you don't think that makes you an arbiter of truth,
well, the arbiter of truth is a jab at Facebook.
Then you shouldn't do it. That's just about it. You shouldn't be fact-checking people if that's not what your website is. Because their website isn't fact-checking people. And okay, this is the thing. Clearly this is political motivated. Can we get that out of the air right now? They didn't fact-check anything Joe Biden said. They didn't fact-check anything Nancy Pelosi said. They didn't fact-check...
They don't fact-check what a lot of people say in general.
Exactly. They haven't fact-checked what anybody has said. And they fact-checked him for that. 100% political. That's just the elephant in the room.
About voting.
Yeah. Elephant in the room. That's just straight up what it is. So any denial of that is just sort of blatant ignorance. And it's like, you're getting caught up in that now because you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that because it's obviously political.
Yeah, dude, just put your hand in the bee's nest.
If anybody who says it isn't political, you're definitely leading with a bias that, you want Trump to lose. Mm-hmm. I assume. That's just political. I don't like Trump. But I know that's political what Twitter did. That's clear as day.
All right, so Zuckerberg was also interviewed about this on CNBC on Wednesday. So you know what's incredible. Social media said social media companies should not regulate political speech. Read it, Nash.
I don't think... Oh, wait. What is it?
This is from Zuck.
I don't think Facebook or internet platforms in general should be arbiters of truth, Zuckerberg said. I think that's kind of a dangerous line to get down to on terms of deciding what is true and what isn't. I think political speech is one of the most sensitive parts in a democracy, and people should be able to see what politicians say. And there's a ton of scrutiny already. Political speech and the most scrutinized speech already by a lot of media. Yeah, because that's the thing. If you want to make another website that all it does is scrutinize the accuracy of tweets, go do that.
Good luck.
You can do that. Exactly. Good luck. That's why nobody fucking does it.
So let's see what politicians have to say.
And why Zuckerberg is pissed off is because he's had to go to hearings about his fucking website.
He's had to awkwardly sip water in front of Congress.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also a lizard. You hear that one?
So he knows, he does kind of look like a lizard.
Yeah, let's see. Keep it up.
He's pasty. But no, that's exactly why, because this is the ramifications of what you do. You're controlling the minds of a lot of people.
Media controls the minds of the masses. That's not original.
Thanks, Ingalls.
Is that who said it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was Hemingway.
He wrote the Communist Manifesto.
So without congressional action, Trump's power is limited, but it's not unlikely to think that Congress could act. Senator Josh Hawley, as Nash is tweeting, said on Wednesday that he plans to introduce legislation to, quote, end these special government giveaways, and that Twitter, quote, should be, what is that word? Divested into... I can't fucking read this. This fucking standard's in the way.
Should be divested of its special statutes under federal law. If @Twitter wants to editorialize and comment on users' posts, it should be divested of its special status under federal law and forced to play by the same rules as all other publishers. Yeah, that's
Fair is fair.
That's the point they're arguing. The thing is, Twitter just shouldn't be doing this because clearly it was a political stunt, and
Yeah.
that isn't their role. Their role is to be an open media forum. That's what they
Their
have
role
been.
is to be a dumpster fire.
Yeah, they're
With funny memes.
they they are a dumpster fire that is occasionally put out with the joy of hilarious memes. But that's essentially what he's saying. The thing is, what Trump is asking for, I don't think it's gonna go the way he wants. I don't think anybody would approve of that because it gets too much with the freedom of speech. Because his argument is, you can see the value in his argument. You know, if this isn't what Twitter does, and they're doing it to me. So he's kind of right. They are targeting him, but he isn't right to say what kind of publisher they are. He's wrong about that. It's just an open forum. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And Twitter just needs to take down the fact check thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because how do you determine a fact?
All right, shit, philosophy
All right,
101.
all right. Correction, asshole. How does Twitter?
No, exactly. They shouldn't. They can't.
How does Twitter determine a fact? Is it what Jack Dorsey thinks is a fact?
Fake news.
Right?
We are in the age of fake news.
So this again goes back to the statute of Section 230, 1996. So, yeah, I think this is kind of beating a dead horse at this point. Nash, any final thoughts on all the stories this week?
Freedom of speech is definitely my most sensitive issue.
Yeah, because it's number one. It's the first thing they wrote down for a reason.
It without a doubt is the most important thing. So if this does get passed,
Oh, good thing we ended. This thing has died.
if this does get passed, that would be a very different. I don't think Trump is handling this accurately.
What a shock.
How he should.
What a shock.
I mean, how often do I really say that? Usually I'm just like, I don't know, I guess, sure. But this, I 100%, this is being handled incorrectly, and it won't end the way he wants it to. Because it just won't pass. They're not going to say, oh, yeah, he's right, Twitter, you're, the Wall Street Journal, go fuck yourself. Like, that's just not going to happen.
Amazon's Wall Street Journal.
Amazon Wall Street Journal was
Dude,
funny.
because Jeff Bezos, that was solid, not going to lie, because Jeff Bezos fucking owns it.
And that's the thing, because what we've seen before is from Trump and the internet. He wanted to restrict. He wanted to do the exact opposite when he got into office. He wanted to restrict public use of the internet. Do you remember that?
Yeah, because it passed the freedom, like the freedom. I forget what it was. It passed. It passed, and like the internet's gonna be regulated, something like that, right?
Yeah, I don't think it passed all the way.
It's still like in appeals court, but the original thing did pass.
Yeah, but it won't because it violates freedom of speech.
It might because corporations.
It definitely violates freedom of speech. It won't because it violates freedom of speech. And if it does, then there will be actual riots and actually things should burn down.
No, because I feel like people won't understand what actually happens.
Well, that's why I'm here to tell them.
Yeah, see, but I hope we reach billions of people by then. I hope we can reach 100 million people in this country by then.
Don't worry, you can find us on Sling TV. But yeah, that's kind of, I guess that's my 2 cents on that. Because now we're seeing something totally different where he's saying, deregulate the whole thing, let everybody be responsible for it, which is batshit insane.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to... Jack Dorsey's thinking about making a Wild West version of Twitter?
Yeah.
Where it's just gung-ho, whatever you want. You can also have porn on Twitter. That's not regulated.
You can't have porn on Twitter. Only classy porn.
You can just flash a cock out on Twitter.
Yeah. I haven't been on Twitter in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I'm not a Twitter person.
I'm not either.
Because it's like...
Dude, I don't like using social media personally. This is my personal shit. Don't like it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I just like looking at memes. That's all I like.
Yeah, I
Oh, I kind of like Instagram.
Because Instagram's just a meme factor.
It's a meme factory, but it's also like
it's-
if I have a nice picture, yoink. Look at that, 20 likes. I'm so popular.
It's like it's the loud kid in class. It's like Reddit is the kid in class that said something funny, and Instagram is the person that said it louder.
Yeah. No, it's Reddit's the person who gets 100 on the test, and Instagram's the one who copies and gets the 90, and then Facebook gets the 85, and Twitter cocking up with the D.